You're listening to The Tarot Diagnosis. I'm your host, Shannon. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I also happen to have a love for tarot. Each episode, I invite you to reflect with me as I work to demystify the tarot and the human experience, all while exploring tarot's connection to mental and emotional health. While this podcast may feel therapeutic, it is not meant to take the place of psychotherapy. So grab your cards and join me as I work to create a pathway to better understand ourselves and those around us. I am so grateful to have Ashley Fenison on the podcast with me today. Ashley's a body positive content creator and professional photographer in Oregon. She's recently released a book called My Body is Art and has started a TikTok series called Let's Get Uncomfortable, which encourages folks to take baby steps to get more comfortable with their bodies by wearing clothes that they've always felt like they couldn't. I'm grateful that Ashley was willing to sit down with me today and have a really vulnerable discussion on healing and developing a healthy relationship with our bodies. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
It is so fun to be talking to you today because, I don't know, you're just really cool. You have some cool energy, and it's so funny how I actually found you because you have this really cool TikTok account, and you started a series called Let's Get Uncomfortable. Yeah. And it was, I think that's what it's called. Hopefully I'm getting that right.
No, yeah, you are.
Cool. And it was all about how being fat in the summer is really difficult. And you were encouraging folks to really practice accepting their bodies by wearing something that they want to wear, but maybe always felt like they couldn't or shouldn't, maybe because they wanted to hide their body. So I don't know, I felt like I thought what you were doing was really cool, especially from a therapeutic and mental health standpoint, because I was like, oh, this is important. This isn't unlike what happens in the therapy room when we're talking about this stuff, because you're being really gentle and compassionate and encouraging, baby steps with folks. And I just thought it was such a good idea. So I was really excited to have you on and talk about this, because then I found out you were also into tarot. And I was like, oh, okay, this is totally going to work out. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
And I have to say, so I was telling you this before we hopped on to record. I originally was like super excited to do this episode, and I still am, but I'm, just to be honest, super nervous because it's such a vulnerable topic. Because I personally have this really complicated relationship with my body. So even though, it's a vulnerable topic, I do feel like it's a necessary conversation to explore.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it can be very healing and rewarding to get uncomfortable and talk about these things.
Yeah. So tell me, what has the response been like for you on TikTok? Because I imagine a lot of people are probably reaching out to you and responding, sharing what their own journey with this experience and the challenge, so to speak, that you're offering. What's that been like for them?
It's been really positive feedback and rewarding, which has been really, really nice. I get comments daily being like, oh, I wore that tank top today. And it wasn't that bad. Or I went out in the swimsuit. Even if I wore the cover up, it's the first time in 10 years I've done that. Seeing and reading those comments, I'm like, yes, we're doing it. We don't have to hide our bodies anymore. So it's been really rewarding.
That's so good to hear. I mean, what even prompted your idea for this challenge? I'm really curious. We haven't talked about that.
Yeah. So I have this last year really, really been trying to work on healing my inner child. And I have been fat my whole life. I was, since 5 was the first time I remember being called fat. So I struggled with it my whole life. And I was journaling about it a month or so ago before I started. And I'm like, what would I want to tell little Ashley that's 5 years old, wondering why she's treated differently because of her body? What does this little person need to know? And I went back and I was just okay, summer was the hardest time for me, especially as a kid. And I was I didn't ever want to wear swimsuits. I didn't want to go do things. I'm what if I was sweatier than everyone else? All of these factors of having a bigger body. So I was I really wish I had someone a positive influence that was bigger and be no, you can wear what you want. You can do these things. we can unlearn what we're taught about our bodies and we can just like go live our life, you know, essentially. So I was like, I want to start a series and maybe I can help someone that's feeling that way to not go through that, I guess. Cause I went through it for like over 10 years. I think like 2 years ago is when I really started healing my relationship with my body. So it's like 25 years of just negative and holding myself back and all of that. So it really started with me trying to like tell my younger self, like, what would she have needed? And that's what inspired it.
Oh my gosh, I just want to hug little Ashley. And I want little Shannon to go up to little Ashley and be like, hey, we're buds. Cause like,
yes.
I totally get it. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Like also, I feel like I've been struggling to figure out my own relationship with my body and have spent the last 2.5 decades working to try and change my body. And I'm not exaggerating because like you, like I've always been in a larger body. I mean, that was the biggest like insult that was always spewed at me growing up was you're fat. And I think I've been on a diet since like second grade, you know, you know, all of, and it's, you know, and, you know, my body has never been quote unquote good enough, never been conventionally attractive. It's never been something that I've even super felt comfortable with. So, and, you know, it's not, no matter how little I eat or how much I exercise, like my body just would not change. And I think that's where a lot of the relationship stuff with our body needs to come in because there's so much that we cannot control about our body, even though that there's a lot that we can. So, you know, now I understand that I have a lot of like internal things going on that are outside of my control, but it's really difficult to exist in a larger body when you're not even really given an opportunity to develop a healthy relationship with that body because the society and the people around you just won't allow it.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're all of our thought, well, speaking for me, but like growing up in a fat body, everyone's interactions when we talked about my body or myself was like always negative or how to change it. Like the body that we're in now was never like spoken positively about or cherished or accepted. And it's like, well, no, like our bodies are just as good as everyone else's bodies and we deserve to love it and cherish it and all of that.
Absolutely. It's really interesting hearing you say, you know, the interactions were always negative. And I think that's a really common experience with folks who are fat or in a larger body or just a different body is they're so, and by different, I mean like not what's not deemed, you know, socially acceptable or conventionally attractive by society. But so many people will come up and just give you unsolicited advice.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, like I haven't been thinking about this for the last, I don't know, 3 decades, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wasn't aware of that. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention.
So I feel like we're really getting into it. I'm excited to pull a card. And because you're into tarot, I think you're going to pull a card too. Are you going to pull along with me?
Yes, I will.
Yay. Okay. What deck are you using?
The Witch's Tarot.
Okay. Very cool. We're both using a Witch Tarot deck. I'm using the Modern Witch Tarot deck.
Oh, yay.
Nice. Yeah. I chose this deck because it's got more modern images, hence Modern Witch, and it's more fun.
Yes. Yeah. Mine has like, it's from the 80s, I think. And some of the cards are different. Like it's like the Hermit is like the seeker and there's like no devil and things like that. Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, very neat. Yeah, I love when decks kind of switch it up and use different language because then it transforms the relationship you have with your deck because different things bring up different stuff. So I ended up pulling the Ace of Swords. What did you pull?
I pulled the Universe.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Ace of Swords in the Universe. So my first thought with Ace of Swords is this is like a card of like quick decisions and messages. So it makes me think, I guess I'm going back to societal pressures because we were kind of headed in that direction when we were talking a moment ago, but how I guess just the pressure of society really dictates and kind of tells us what our worth is and that it's tied to our appearance. So, growing up or even just today, even with social media, even though there are people out there like you who are trying to encourage a positive or even just neutral relationship with your body, we are constantly bombarded with messages that, we're supposed to look a certain way in order to be happy or successful or loved. But the reality is our value isn't defined by how we look, but that is so difficult to internalize. And I feel like that's the one thing that I think really I struggle with and my clients struggle with is internalizing this idea, this thought that our value as a human being is not defined by how we look, because when we present to the world around us, which, okay, there's your universe card, as we exist in the world, it's that first judgment and first impression or first message that our body gives to other people that we have zero control over how those people or that person is going to receive us or even perceive us in the outside world.
Yeah. Just reminds me of what I was talking about as a kid and all the messages about my body I'd receive. And now I'm at a point where I can relate the message, but with a positive outlook. So it's changing the cycle into a more positive outlook.
Yeah, it brings up this idea of really challenging some of the stigmas and the judgment that is so prevalent when you exist in a larger body. Mm-hmm. And trying to figure out, okay, these messages that I've received growing up, I think they basically tell us that we're supposed to exist in the world in a very specific way. Yeah. And so what you're doing through your social media presence is actively like pushing against that and saying, no, you can actually exist in the world in the way that you want to exist in the world.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think, I think you pulling the World card and then me pulling the Ace of Swords is interesting because if we look at these two cards together, the World represents, different cycles that we experience in life. And then the Ace of Swords is really kind of like new ideas and our level of cognition and the stories we tell ourselves. And I feel like the stories we tell ourselves and the cycles that we end up in, especially when we're in a larger body, are perpetuated by fat shaming and weight discrimination and all of these like body-based prejudice that we experience. And then all of those experiences have really severe psychological and emotional consequences, which really impact the way we show up in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about how doing this challenge on TikTok or even just like your own personal journey has helped you step out of maybe that cycle of, oh, I'm supposed to exist in this narrative, but I'm choosing my own narrative now to exist in.
Yeah, this series has definitely helped me too personally because I'm doing some of these challenges with you guys or like with the videos. So it's definitely kept me on track in the sense of not slipping off and with the negative thoughts as well, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's like I was saying, it's been really nice to also keep it in my mind of staying like positive and like your body is worth all of this and getting me also ready for summer in a way. Like I'm at the best point I've ever been with my body, but that doesn't mean I still have like those days or those thoughts of like, oh my God, like I don't look good or whatever it is. So the series has definitely helped me in that way, but it's also helped me connect with other plus size people or people in bigger bodies that just like understand. And it's different like when I would talk about it with a friend that may be thinner who's never struggled, like they're great and supportive, but it's they don't fully understand. So being able to connect with other people that like get it and can help lift each other up and be a community has been really nice. So that's what I loved doing for this series, is connecting with more people.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's so cool because I didn't even think about that as being a positive side effect of this, because it's so true. The relationships that it's so interesting, like how when we're in a larger body, how even the relationships that we have with other people are different or affected because how we maybe show up with our thinner friends or the support that we get is so different than someone who, like you said, like actually gets it. It's interesting because I just cut the deck and pulled Three of Pentacles, which is the card of like collaboration and like connecting with others and having a shared experience. So as you were talking, I was like, oh my God, this is perfect for this card.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Something that you said also made me think about how we often like are missing out on a lot because we feel like we're supposed to hide our bodies. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, this card is interesting because in a Modern Witch Tarot, it shows people of like kind of 3 different phases of life. You have, it looks like maybe the teacher, and then you have the student who's drawing the nude model who is in a little bit of a larger body. And so there's this shared experience, but they each have a different experience within the shared experience. And that's making me think about how you and I actually have a really intimate access into how people feel about their bodies and their relationship with their bodies, mm-hmm. where I hear it maybe verbalized when someone's sitting on my couch. You see it through a lens because you're a professional photographer. Mm-hmm. So, and then now with this social media experience that you've created for folks, I'm curious what that's been like for you, witnessing people's relationships with their bodies, whether it's positive, negative, neutral, or even the transformation that they've had, because, mm-hmm. you know, it's really vulnerable to get in front of a camera because, I mean, you're photographing someone's body.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that to all my clients when they're nervous. I'm like, you should be. Like, it's a vulnerable time. You're like half naked with a stranger having a camera in your face. Like, it's going to be, you know, it will take a second, but it definitely gets easier. Yeah, but it's been, honestly, being a photographer and doing like mainly boudoir photography has really helped me connect with my body and help others connect with theirs, because I've always seen the body as art and like an artistic lens. Mm-hmm. When I first studied photography, like Man Ray, who is a photographer from like the 1920s, he was one of the first to start photographing like the human body. And it was in like such an artistic way. And I was drawn to that so quickly. And then, you know, fast forward a few years later, I wanted to start practicing photographing like larger bodies because I'm like, oh, I realized like in the beginning, I was only shooting super thin models because it's like, it was easier. Like it just seemed like what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? And then I was
what
like,
I'm supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Like as a photographer, all the models are super thin and they're quote unquote easier to pose in a way. But I was like, wait, no, like that's not what I want to represent. I want to include everyone. Like everyone deserves to feel like art and mm-hmm. connect with their bodies and have this look back on. So that's when I started kind of like my, I don't know, I guess my slogan or whatever you'd call it, but like my body is art. Like that's mm-hmm. what I go by and that's what I tell everyone. So that's when I finally started really learning the body in all different shapes, if that makes sense. Learning how to like pose and see all bodies in the same, not in the same way, but as art, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been really nice. And it's so rewarding to have a client that may be a little bit nervous. And I ask all my clients too, like before we start, no matter what size or who you are, I'm like, tell me a part of you that you absolutely love and you want to like be a main focus, like your thighs, your chest, like whatever it is. Mm. And is there a part of you that you may be insecure about or you don't have a good relationship? Just so I'm aware, like I could see your legs as like beautiful and you could see it completely differently. So I just like to know so I'm not enhancing an insecurity for someone.
Right.
But it's also noted that like I want to be able to capture it in a way that will hopefully they can see it in a new light as well, but to where it's not like the main focus, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, what you're describing makes me think of how we've been conditioned societally to be like societally codependent by learning that we are supposed to hide our bodies and feel maybe ashamed in order to prioritize the comfort of others. And what you're doing is saying, hey, listen, I know this might be uncomfortable, but is there something that we can do to maybe shine some light on how this is actually a really beautiful part of your body? Or maybe not even, we don't even have to use the word beautiful because that might make people uncomfortable, but just a neutral part of your body that maybe really looks nice in the way the light is coming in right now. So, and I think too, you being a boudoir photographer or that being part of your work is really fascinating because that is inherently a vulnerable thing to do because there's so much of you exposed. And I think just to be able to exist in that space, both as a photographer and as the model, can be really healing because you're basically saying, yes, here's my body, it's on display, and you're kind of actively pushing up against these societal norms. Because earlier you were saying, the models are historically really thin, so to put yourself in a position where you're like, no, I'm going to be here and allow these photos to be taken, I think helps to break down these messages that we're always receiving.
Yeah, exactly. And especially like a boudoir shoot or like a boudoir photographer, when you look at your body, you kind of look at it the same, right? Like when you're looking in the mirror and you point out the things you don't like and you look at it from your eyes and like one point of view. But if you let someone else with an artistic eye or, whichever photographer, they give me a chance to capture it in a whole new way, whole new angle, whole new lighting, a way that you're not used to seeing that part of you. And hopefully it's my goal, but to help you change your point of view on that, being like, oh, I've just been looking at my body wrong this whole time. Like my thighs are stunning. Like what was I talking about? Like that's my goal, to hopefully help them see their body through a new lens and be like, oh wait, that's a beautiful part of me. What was I thinking?
Absolutely. I mean, you're giving me major Queen of Wands energy right now.
Oh, thank you.
Because, I mean, I feel like the Queen of Wands is all about this like kind of like gentle, welcoming approach, but she's got this like this large, powerful wand. And I think maybe that's your camera and like your personality and the way that you invite people into your space. But I mean, what you're describing is all about cultivating either a positive or just neutral relationship with your body. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about being able to maybe even explore this like radical act of defiance against whatever story you've been carrying about your body, going back to like your inner child work that you were talking about, and saying, well, this story is like long gone and I'm going to reject that idea now because, our bodies aren't here to just be criticized or manipulated or hidden away, but our bodies are just the vessel that we exist in. And it's capable of incredible things despite what it looks like. And it's the soul within the body that really is life itself that we don't give enough maybe credit or even thought to.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what I had to come to terms with. And when I was doing my inner child work, I had pretty like a rougher upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a long time to realize like I still am. I'm working on my relationship with food in that sense, but I'm a big emotional eater. Mm-hmm. And looking back, that's how I dealt with trauma was like, I would go eat. And that's what brought me like safety and security and comfort. And I'm like, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. My body was taking care of me. My body was protecting this little girl that was hurting so bad and didn't have anyone. And at that time, food brought that to me. And so I'm trying to look at it in the sense of my body was protecting, like my body was my comfort. And I'm glad in a way that I had that as a resource back then because I didn't know how to handle these emotions. So it's just looking at it in a whole new light of just, I'm thankful that my fat body protected me during those hard times.
I can hear the work that you've done just in that story. I mean, yes, because it's in, our coping mechanisms, that goes for anything. I think it's so easy for us to want to talk badly or poorly about these coping mechanisms. But the reality is at some point they did keep us safe. And it was the only coping mechanism that we had access to at that time. And I love that you've been able to say, okay, here's this thing that was the only thing that I had, and that led to this other thing. So now I'm working on healing that relationship so that I can have other coping mechanisms that are maybe more accessible or more appropriate based on where I'm at in life right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to pull another card real quick and see what comes up.
Yeah. I pulled the Six of Wands.
Oh, you pulled the Six of Wands?
I did.
Ooh, okay. So that's like the victory and accomplishment card, or that's how I think of it. What's coming up for you as you look at that card, though?
Yeah, I definitely got like rewarding and kind of nurturing in a way. My card has like a woman sitting in like a flower field on it. So I just got very like comfort, and yeah, that's just what I got from it.
It makes sense based on what you're talking about with, the inner child work and the coping mechanisms, because it's like, hey, I'm sitting here and able to acknowledge kind of where I've been, where I've come from, and where I am now. And it's interesting because actually when you're in a larger body, despite your age, you almost feel like maybe you're not allowed to do that. Like you're not supposed to be celebrating yourself or where you've come from. And it's so shitty because that's absolutely not the truth. We're allowed to celebrate exactly where we are and where we've come from, regardless of how our bodies look or how they're perceived or how large or small or, whether or not we have a disability. So I actually really love that you pulled that card.
Yeah. It gave me some comfort, so I liked it.
And it's interesting. So I just pulled the Star, which is, this is like a super vulnerable card, right? Because it's a nude person. And actually, that's so fascinating, actually. 2 of the cards I've pulled today from this deck show people in just nude bodies, the Three of Pentacles and the Star, which, I mean, fitting for this episode, talking about the human body and our relationship to it.
Yeah, my universe card has a naked body on it, so.
That's right. Yeah. Oh my God. So 3 cards today that are just like, here you are in your raw form.
Yes.
And what's really beautiful, right? Well, what's beautiful about the fact that these bodies are all nude is that either all portrayed in a really like celebratory fashion, or even just a fashion that's like, hey, you're allowed to exist in this body. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because with the Star, I don't know, it's kind of making me feel like the body almost as a canvas, especially because you're a photographer and like what you're doing, because the Star is like kind of newness and it comes after the Tower. So usually, the Towers, we've had some sort of upheaval of something. And then the Star is kind of what comes after. So if we're talking about redefining or reimagining our relationships with our body, the Star is really fitting. And I think it's also really fitting with what you're doing on TikTok and this challenge to kind of wear what you want to wear, express yourself how you want to express yourself, because the body really is just a canvas. It's just a vessel, and you get to do with it whatever you want in a way that makes you feel good or happy. And if that's, wearing something that you have only seen thin people wear it anyway. Or if it's a tattoo that you want, or hair dye, like whatever, it's your body. Like you get to choose.
Exactly. Yes. The Fool popped out.
And I pulled 8 of Swords, which is that's kind of like an ominous card right now. But the Fool, so the Fool and 8 of Swords. Is anything coming up for you? Like, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I instantly giggled. I feel like I always giggle when I see the Fool for some reason. I don't know. Isn't the Fool kind of like taking chances?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's just relating to my series of like taking this chance of helping me reach people and giving people a fresh new outlook.
Absolutely. Well, so talking about the Fool helps me have maybe a better interpretation of this 8 of Swords, because otherwise it's this person tied up with rope, blindfolded, surrounded by 8 ominous swords. But I think if we pair it with the Fool, it's saying, hey, like this is where you used to exist, but it's time to kind of step beyond that and step outside of, just what society and people have, maybe told you that you're the space you're supposed to exist in. Actually, no, more is coming out from you. So when you're in a larger body, I feel like, you're constantly exposed to fat phobia. So you feel like maybe you're only supposed to stay in this really like tight quarters away from other people. And I think the Fool paired with the Eight of Swords is really kind of rejecting that and saying, hey, like, you don't have to be a prisoner in your own body. And it's almost like asking the question, how would you be existing or how would you be living your life if you were more concerned about having experiences and less worried about how your body looked during those experiences?
Yeah. And once you can do that, it sounds cheesy, but it's like life-changing to not have those worries over you all the time when you're trying to exist or enjoy the beach or whatever it is. Like, it's so nice to not give an F about what other people think or having negative thoughts around your body.
Absolutely, because you can just live and be in the moment.
Yeah, because I don't know, realistically, no one is looking at you the way you are, and so once you can let that go, it's so rewarding. Like, you can just live. Like, you don't have to, like, I remember going to the beach being like, oh no, I don't want to swim. Like, I'm just not feeling up to it or whatever. But in reality, I'm like, I didn't want to be seen in a swimsuit. Why? It doesn't, I mean, I know why, because insecurities and it's, all of that. But once you can be like, I know I look good and I don't care what other people think. I'm going to go get in the water because it's hot and, enjoy my friends and go live my life. It's so rewarding because you can just live. It's so nice.
Right. And that's why we have these bodies, so that we can just live.
Exactly. Because I didn't let myself live for a long time, especially during the summer. So trying to get that time back.
Absolutely. I really do love what you're doing. I'm so glad you showed up on my For You page. And
yeah, me too.
I think it's fantastic that so many, like, you're impacting so many people. And because it is, it is way more than just what you're wearing. I think what you're doing is affecting people on a much deeper level. And it does go back to that Fool's energy and just allowing yourself to live and have experiences. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
So can you share with folks where they can find you?
Yeah, I am on TikTok and Instagram, Third Eye Lens like a camera. I have a photo book coming out. The goal is July. My sample of the book is supposed to be here tomorrow. So very excited.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it's called My Body's Art. And it's a project I started in January. And like I kind of mentioned, Man Ray, how he captured the human body like very up close and raw and authentic. And I wanted to do that. I was very inspired by that. So I was like, if anyone has a part of their body that they want to learn to fall in love with, like, I would love to feature you in my book. And it's all shot in black and white. There's no editing to the images. And each model picked a part of them they wanted to feature. So like for myself, it's my back rolls. I have really like big back rolls. And that was my insecurity forever. Like, it's still a struggle, but it's so minimal now. It's just like, not as often as I'm like, oh, my back. But yeah, that's mine. And that will be the cover, is my back. And then each model picked apart. So there's like a tummy section, there's like a scar section, and there's all different kinds of bodies, all sizes and everything. And yeah, I'm just really excited for people to see it. And I hope it can help other people see their body as art as well.
Thank you so much for listening to The Tarot Diagnosis. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok under the handle @TheTarotDiagnosis and join us while we pull daily cards and explore tarot and mental health in between podcast episodes. You can also subscribe to our podcast to make sure that you never miss an episode. If you have a topic or question that you'd like for us to explore on the podcast, you can contact us directly on our website, www.thetarotdiagnosis.com.